can and will defend every inch of NATO territory, and we'll do it together.
Now let's turn to the US, where a summit is underway to mark 75 years of NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Now, NATO is a relic formed in the heydays of the Cold War, the geopolitical competition between the US and the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union doesn't exist anymore. It is now just Russia. So NATO should have ceased to exist as well. Instead, it just keeps growing. This year's summit also celebrated a new member, Sweden. It is NATO member number 32, and the alliance does not plan to stop there. It keeps dangling membership before another European nation, one that is desperate to join, Ukraine. NATO declared that Ukraine's path to membership was irreversible. But when will Kiev join the bloc? Who knows? No timeline has been set. All that NATO has promised was that it would happen eventually, which means after the Russia-Ukraine war ends. So if NATO plans to expand even after the Russia-Ukraine war is over, who will the alliance be fighting? Probably still Russia. But by the looks of it, they're gearing up to take on another foe, and that is China. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization is now looking further afield. It is now eyeing Asia and preparing to confront Asia's biggest bully, all in the name of stopping Moscow.
China has become a decisive enabler of Russia's war against Ukraine. And China's support increases the threat Russia poses to Euro-Atlantic security.
NATO is finally taking aim at Beijing. It has called China a quote-unquote decisive enabler of Russia's war in Ukraine. Yesterday, the bloc put out a declaration. China was accused of providing raw materials to Russia's military-industrial complex.
But China is the main enabler because, as you refer to, they are delivering the tools, the dual-use equipment, the microelectronics, everything Russia needs to build the missiles, the bombs, the aircraft, and all the other systems they use against Ukraine.
NATO's claws are out. It has stopped tiptoeing around the issue and decided to challenge China directly. Obviously, Beijing wasn't thrilled.
The NATO-Washington Summit Declaration hypes up tensions in the Asia-Pacific region and is filled with Cold War mentality and belligerent rhetoric. The China-related content is full of prejudice, smearing, and provocation.
China accused NATO of smearing its image. Beijing said that it has never supplied any lethal weapons to Russia and that it has strict export controls on dual-use materials. It added that all its trade with Moscow is normal. And then China went on the offensive.
China urges NATO to abandon its outdated concepts of Cold War mentality, bloc confrontation, and zero-sum game. Correct its wrong perception of China, stop interfering in China's internal politics and smearing China's image, and do not create chaos in the Asia-Pacific after creating turmoil in Europe.
That last point was interesting. Beijing urged NATO not to create chaos in the Asia-Pacific, and that's a bit rich coming from China. This is the same nation that has problems with all its neighbors: India, Bhutan, Vietnam, the Philippines, Japan, Mongolia. You name the country and China will come up with bogus territorial claims. China is the most destabilizing nation in Asia. It is a threat to global peace and security. NATO says that these developments in the Indo-Pacific directly affect Euro-Atlantic security. So the bloc wants to nip the Chinese threat in the bud. And how will they do this? With the help of 4 allies in the East: Japan, South Korea, New Zealand, and Australia. Together, they are called the Indo-Pacific 4 Group, or the IP4, Indo-Pacific 4. They've become regulars at NATO summits. The four nations were first invited in the year 2022, and the current one is their third summit in a row. NATO is holding detailed talks with the IP4 today, and the alliance plans to expand its influence in the East. But how will the rest of Asia react to these developments? Well, some places might welcome an expanded NATO role, like Taiwan, the Philippines, and of course the IP4. They will welcome this, but most countries will be wary. NATO is a Western alliance, and Asia has learned to be wary of Western military presence. That's the case at the moment. But it may change over time, especially if China continues its aggressive behavior.
Across continents, one powerful news source.
Bringing you diverse perspectives on the issues that matter.
We go beyond the boundaries to give you that little extra about every sporting moment.
So thank you for making Firstpost 5 million strong. We're counting on your support, and you can trust us to bring you the news unfiltered and unvarnished.
Climate change is on our doorstep. It's time for a revolution to take root. And it starts with 1.4 billion Indians. It starts with one tree for humanity, one tree for Mother Earth, one tree for a future. Project One Tree, a News 18 network initiative.
Obviously today, the T20 World Cup bandwagon has moved across to the West Indies. What can you expect from this?
Hello, I'm Alison Green, coming to you from Durban, South Africa. Today we have a special show.
We'll start with a report on India's shifting nuclear posture. For the first time since India officially became a nuclear power.
Hello and welcome to Firstpost America. I'm Aaron Ham, coming to you live from the nation's capital in Washington, D.C.